March 2025. In a small village in Balaghat district of Madhya Pradesh, police are responding to a double murder. The call is made by the perpetrator himself, 20-year-old Satyam, who is an IIT aspirant, and the victims are his two parents. Satyam admits to attacking both parents in a fit of rage because his phone was being taken away from him. Fortunately, his father survives but is left wondering, how can I forget my own son killed his own mother? During Bhaskar English's investigation, Satyam admitted to watching inappropriate content during COVID. He feels sorry for his crime and demands to be hanged. This case might be an extreme incident, but this problem is not uncommon. Indians are becoming slaves to the algorithm, and the youth and children are worst affected. The pattern becomes clear when we look at the data. Brigya explains some of the facts we discovered.
There's a study from 2024 that links the screen time and social media use to poor mental health. They found out that 37.9% of young adults showed symptoms of depression and around 33.3% showed symptoms of anxiety. And this study shows that both depression and anxiety are positively correlated to screen time and social media use. Another study from 2024 shows that in secondary school, 83.2% of children spend more than 2 hours a day on screens. But even younger children, as young as the ones who are 5-year-old, are not falling behind. A study from Tamil Nadu shows that 73% of children under 5 years of age exceed the recommended limits of screen time. Now, the national average of the number of kids using smartphones in India is 49%. But the numbers coming from Jammu and Kashmir is deeply concerning. The average rate is around 79.4% for the children aged between 14 years to 16 years and around 63% for the children between 1 year to 14 years. If the national average is around 49%, which is already concerning, you can only imagine how serious the numbers from Jammu and Kashmir are. The doctors in Jammu and Kashmir are calling it an epidemic.
Sometimes it gets hard to keep track of the people behind these numbers. Chances are, if you are not addicted to social media, you might know someone who is affected by it.
So, how many hours do you usually spend on your phone in a day?
Basically 2 to 3 hours.
Could you show us your screen time?
Sure.
Wow.
Basically I just start scrolling. मतलब जिस काम के लिए मैं खोलता हूँ वो मैं काम करता नहीं हूँ, मैं स्क्रॉल करने बैठ जाता हूँ लेकिन.
And have you ever opened your phone for 5 minutes and suddenly realized an hour passed?
Of course, मेरे ख्याल से हर कोई ऐसे ही करता है आजकल.
So what happens then?
कुछ नहीं, मैं इंस्टाग्राम में रहता हूँ, ऑल टाइम रील स्क्रॉल करता हूँ.
So it would be approximately 9 to 10 hours in a day. 9 hours, exact. Most of the times when I unlock my phone, I know why I'm unlocking it. But what happens is, I eventually, in subconscious mind, I move and start watching Instagram reels. There are times when I've opened my phone for 5 minutes and I start doing something else and I forget what I was supposed to do it. Then I realize I opened my phone to call someone or text someone, and then I eventually jump and start texting or calling that person.
So why is this happening? The answer lies here. The substantia nigra and the ventral tegmentum. These two areas in the brain are responsible for producing the hormone we know and love, dopamine. Up until a few years ago, dopamine was known as the love hormone, but these days, mentioning the word dopamine conjures up images of instant gratification and guilty pleasures. So how do these reward systems work in the context of social media use? Social media is all about one thing, entertainment. You see, entertainment in all its forms has always been activating our dopamine centers. Music, theatre, arts, and more recently TV, print media, and radio. But the advent of digital and especially social media has escalated this to unprecedented levels. Every time you scroll and find a reel you like, dopamine does its job. It tells your brain, try to do more of this because it feels good. And before you know it, you scroll and scroll and scroll till you find the next reel that makes you feel good. This is not just about being entertained with funny or relatable or attractive content. You start scrolling endlessly looking for the next dopamine hit, which makes seeking and anticipating rewards a much bigger part of this endless cycle. A key marker of addiction, chasing a high. And please don't think this is an exaggeration. The key driver behind this process, the happy hormone dopamine, is also the key driver behind other addictions, which means the same hormone that drives alcohol, nicotine, gambling, and sex addiction is also responsible for addiction to social media and device usage. The difference is that substance abuse, gambling, and other addictions have a bad rap, but social media somehow is still flying below the radar.
When we say social media addiction, are we overreacting to the phenomena, or is it really addiction in the technical sense? I don't think we are overreacting to anything. Addiction could be for anything, from food, sex, drugs, to even social media. Human brain with its constantly eager reward centers can get hooked to anything basically. And social media rather offers very exciting stimuli on a platter. From social validation to rage bait content to confirming ideas to almost every single thing, social media has everything to entice a person and get them hooked. To call it an addiction, I don't believe is an exaggeration in any way, but the need of the hour in today's time, so that we all get to know that people are losing their sensibilities and critical thinking ability and are just getting more and more dull. Rather, they are getting lulled into a fictitious reality that is created on the internet.
Most of us might be too young to remember, but cigarettes were often recommended or even prescribed by doctors before we caught up to the ill effects of it. Is social media the cigarette of the next generation? It's not that hard to imagine. So what put social media in a league of its own? How has it managed to put all of our minds in a chokehold, something the other mediums have not been able to? It's because of the algorithm.
Algorithms.
The algorithm is what makes social media an inescapable black hole of habit and addiction. It makes sure you come to the platform and stay on it with no end in sight. So every time you watch a video that you like it, share it, save it, or at the very least, you watch it again. And this makes the algorithm understand what gives you that dopamine hit. That makes it easier and easier for you to get a fix, thus making you feel rewarded. Fine, now we know what the problem is, but who is responsible for this? We tried to find out. A few years ago, entertainment and media was simple. They sold technology and content, we bought it, consumed it, and that was the end of it.
Is social media different from older forms of media like print, radio, television? Well, the answer is a definite yes. The older forms of media were largely passive, but when it comes to social media, it is deeply engaging, interactive, and highly personalized. Most social media platforms are designed around what neuroscience calls as a variable reward system, which means that you don't know when the next like, follow, or comment is going to come, and that unpredictability in the reward keeps you hooked. It keeps your brain activated. The dopamine pathways in the brain are active all the time, which are basically linked to motivation and habit formation. Which is why you find yourself continuously checking your phone for notifications, and you kind of find it hard to put your phone down after a point in time. It does become very distressing. Another important difference is that social approval and validation can now be easily quantified and measured through likes, follows, and comments. Since human beings are essentially wired for belonging and acceptance, this continuous and constant exposure to measurable validation has increased the need for comparison and self-evaluation, which is largely linked to a lot of mental and emotional health issues. And this impact is not limited to people who continuously create and post content on social media. In fact, research suggests that people who are passive consumers of content, who just scroll through, even they are likely to experience an increased sense of comparison and reduced life satisfaction because they are continuously being exposed to a curated version of other people's life on social media. So the issue here is not screen time, but the overall psychological environment that social media creates, one that constantly engages attention, reward seeking, and social comparison, especially in developing minds.
DVDs, laptops, computers, movie tickets, even early cell phones. We simply bought them, consumed them, and we set them aside when we were done. But at some point, this relationship changed, and it changed because of advertising.
Natural.
All the energy.
Chemicals best give 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 natural.
You have all heard it before. If you are not paying for it, you are the one who is for sale. What does that really mean? Your data, what you like, hate, dislike, love, what you wear, how you sleep, what you eat, who you are is for sale. It doesn't take much either. It can be done with the click of a button. And what's worse is that you click that button yourself when you touch I agree. We all know social media platforms want you to stay on them for as long as you can. But for whom? It's for advertisers. Advertisers are the ones who are paying these platforms to keep you on there, and they are buying you or your attention. But they don't want just any attention, they are looking for the premium kind. They are looking for the attention of their ideal customer profile who is emotionally primed to buy whatever they are selling. The algorithm is what makes it all possible. It can accurately predict numerous data points about you and your life. Are you married or single? Are your parents together or divorced? Are you gay or straight? Rich or poor? Young or old? Do you like muscle cars or unicorns? Your algorithm probably knows you better than you do. Now it takes all of that and gives you what we are told is the greatest thing they have done for us: personalized feeds. But if you think about it, it's more like feeding pigs before slaughter. The algorithm puts you in an emotional state that makes you most likely to buy something. This is content priming. Again, this is nothing new. Media agencies used to do this all the time. But social media has made it personalized for you. When it's about time for you to see an ad, boom, the algorithm throws up something that makes you anxious, sad, or angry. So you can buy the next shiny thing or sign up for a course that makes you feel better about yourself. As adults, this is harmful enough for us. Even if you don't intend to buy anything, the reward system affects your brains and emotions in a way that you can't even anticipate. But the picture is much darker for younger people. According to a study, social media usage has a huge impact on how we think and behave. Heavy use of short-form video content is linked to poor short-term memory and reduced working memory. It even increases impulsive behavior and reduces decision-making skills as a result. So forget about adults. This is happening to children at a very critical stage when they are still learning about themselves and the world. They have difficulty learning, forming bonds with their peers, paying attention in class, and developing new habits and behaviors. Social media, its algorithms, and handheld devices are inhibiting their cognitive growth and stopping them from making meaningful, real social connections. To some extent, we all knew social media was bad for us, especially for kids. So how did this problem become so big? What is stopping tech companies and social media platforms from changing their algorithms into something better? Why can't they be more like other forms of entertainment like TV or magazines? Are they trying to make the algorithms better, but the users are just too undisciplined and are not taking control of their lives? Or are these big tech companies and social media platforms deliberately disregarding integrity and ethics to make their models as exploitative as possible? Let's find out. The Guardian ran a 2-year-long investigation into how Facebook and Instagram are failing to protect children from sex trafficking. Here's a direct quote from that report. While Meta says it is doing all it can, we have seen evidence that suggests it is failing to report or even detect the full extent of what is happening. And many of those we interviewed said they felt powerless to get the company to act. Meta also fails to detect payments that are made for child abuse material using MetaPay. Vaishnavi Jaikumar, who is a former head of safety and well-being for Instagram, testified at a hearing against 4 social media companies. You could incur 16 violations for prostitution and sexual solicitation, and upon the 17th violation, your account would be suspended. She also added that by any measure across the industry, it was a very, very high strike threshold. The plaintiffs claim that this testimony is corroborated by internal company documentation. If that wasn't shocking enough, here's more. An internal email from 2017 shows a Facebook executive opposed scanning Messenger for harmful content because it would be a competitive disadvantage against other platforms who offered more privacy. By the way, this happened when Snapchat was gaining popularity amongst young users in 2016 and Facebook was falling behind. So to compete with Snapchat, Facebook decided to not prioritize the well-being of its users and chose to focus on growth instead. The examples are endless. This is Meta whistleblower Sarah Wynne Williams, the former director of global public policy for Facebook. During her testimony to US senators, here's what she said. It could identify when they were feeling worthless or helpless or like a failure, and Meta would take that information and share it with advertisers. Advertisers understand that when people don't feel good about themselves, it's often a good time to pitch a product. People are more likely to buy something. And just to illustrate how intentional it is, that all this harm and exploitation is not an unintended side effect or a byproduct. Here's Sarah talking about Facebook executives. I would say, oh, has your teen used the new product we are about to launch? And they're like, my teenagers are not allowed on Facebook. I don't have my teenager on Instagram. These executives, they know the harm this product does. They don't allow their teenagers to use the product that Meta develops. An investigation into TikTok showed that the algorithm finds data points that can be potential vulnerabilities. It then targets users, especially children, with content that can make them have poor mental health and self-esteem issues. Not only that, fake mental health tips thrive on these platforms, making the problem even worse. Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram all have filters and effects that exploit the pre-existing notion of beauty standards for young women and girls. Coupled with extremely hateful content against women that is targeted towards boys, this is sowing the seeds of early misogyny and violence in an entire generation. Maybe this problem is too deep and too complicated to solve, but there are signs of hope. Governments around the world are responding to growing scientific evidence. As childhood itself is becoming increasingly shaped by algorithm-driven platforms, public health researchers warn that problematic digital use among young people is rising globally, reinforcing fears that attention, emotional development, and learning habits may be affected during critical developmental years. But governments are beginning to intervene. Australia has enacted one of the world's first nationwide restrictions banning social media accounts for users under 16. Similar regulatory debates are unfolding across Europe and Asia. There is an overall shift towards treating digital dependency not merely as a personal issue but as a societal risk requiring collective safeguards. This is just episode 1 of our docuseries that covers how the digital age is affecting us as humans, as individuals, as communities. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned.